Welcome to Catfish Weekly. Along with J.R. Cochran, I'm Lyle Stokes. And J.R., it is a beautiful day today. I know you've been out catching fish, and I'm kind of wishing I was. Can't you hear me? He must not be able to hear me. But that's okay. We'll continue on until he figures it out.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
I said it's a beautiful day here. You've been out catching fish?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine.
I think we got a little lag going on.
Oh, we may have. Have you been out?
We got a lag.
Okay. Have you been out fishing?
Yes. Went out Saturday night, fished Main Lake points, and racked up on some good fish that their bellies were about to pop.
Okay. Any size or just all small fish?
Uh, 10 to 15. Small.
Very, very good. Brandy Brooks, how you doing? Glad to see you on the show tonight. We got a bunch of guys in here that's YouTube.
Lyle, I think I should probably back out and come back in.
Okay, that'd be fine. No problem. So, Tim Berger, welcome to Catfish Weekly.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, man. You've missed some tournaments along with a lot of other people.
Yep.
And it's time to start getting them ready. Are you guys gearing up to restart the tournament season?
Yeah, we're making some precautions, taking some precautions, I guess. We got some guidance from some of the locations, and for us, so for people who don't know, it's pretty important that we follow these guidelines. I mean, we're not just, and most tournament series are like this. They're businesses, so they're registered businesses. They have insurance, all the legal things. So from a business standpoint, we need to adhere to the guidance that they put out there, whether we agree with them or not, and so that's what we're doing. So we got some recent guidance from a location, and they want us to take precautions. And one of the tournaments we had a few weeks ago, that was a couple of tournament series around the country were already getting shut down. They were already getting closed, or they decided on their own to postpone their event. And we kept checking with the state and the parks and everybody, and they said, yeah, we want you to have the event, but we want you to follow the social guidelines. And so they had asked us, what our plan was. And when we went over it with them, they thought that was going to be fine. And so the event we had was in Perry Lake. And we told everybody, pre-register online. You can register the day of, but no more than 2 people at the registration at a time, and things like that. And keep this crowd, broke up, keep, your distance from everybody. No more than 2 boats in front of the weigh station at any given time, only 1 team up at front at a time. And so we kind of tested the waters on that, and we were pretty successful. And, as the rest of the series around here hadn't had to do that just yet, so they kind of looked at it. And then anytime someone goes first, there's always an opportunity to improve on what you've seen them do. And so we have some tournament series now that they're really going to improve on that, and that's going to be good. And we'll see how they do things, and we'll try to improve a little bit more and try to get these events started for the rest of the year, and get people on the water.
I've been really concerned that there was going to be a lot of the big tournaments canceled, and I'm still thinking that there'll be a lot of the big tournaments that don't have the turnout that they should have, just because of the way this was all taking place and social distancing and all the crud that's going with it. I think that a lot of people will not take the risk due to health issues, age issues, and whatever else is involved. But that's just my opinion. But I think that we'll notice tournament turnout lower this year than we've probably seen it in a long time.
It has potential to, and so far this year, I think it has a little more. I mean, there's a lot of contributing, additional factors there, second and third order effects. A lot of people are unemployed right now.
Yep.
So tournament fishing,
money's expense terribly.
Yeah, and the entry fee a lot of times is the lower end of the expense pool.
Right.
So boat repairs, prepping, trailering somewhere, getting a hotel room. So when people are out of work, besides the risk of the virus or things like that, just being out of work, they don't have that income. So yeah, it's eroding that boat count.
Well, a lot of these big events, whether it be Memphis or Wheeler Lake or wherever you go, a lot of these big events, if you're a serious competitor, you're going to be into it for somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000 for a week of going, staying, eating out, entry fees, gas for your boat and truck, and all the expense, staying in motels or cabins or wherever it's at. It's very expensive to fish these big tournaments, and there's going to be a lot of people that's been off work for a month or more. It's going to take a while to catch up on that. And I think that's going to make a huge determination on entries to a lot of the tournaments, even some of the smaller local tournaments.
Yeah. And another effect of all this is the hotel sales now so last year, all the hotel sales contributed to the budget that we have for added money now from the CVBs and whatnot. This year, the hotel sales are already, in the red. They're not getting the hotel rooms rented out, and that's only going to be extended on there. So next year, the cities, the larger metropolitan areas, may not have as much money to contribute to tournament series. If they have to prioritize where they're going to disperse those monies, it may not be in the tournament industry.
That's right.
It could be somewhere else. So this could have some long lingering effects, not to mention like today's oil, news. That's also, so there's a lot of things going on with this right now. For our events, we have one coming up on May 3rd, and most likely, if I can't get everything put together, which it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to, some of the requirements that we have, we're going to push that back to later in May. And then our May event, we're going to be pushing back to September. But what that does is it consolidates the added money that we have coming in from one of the sponsors. And it'll be a bigger added money. It should be approximately $12,000 to that Heartland Challenge event. And the anglers won't mind that,
No,
So
that'll be a huge event for you.
What's that?
That'll be a huge event for you.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is any of us guys down south is going to want to travel to Missouri to get in those tournaments.
That's right. And there's an event, and it's not our event, but there's an event coming up late summer, early spring or fall. The Catfish Chaser is up in St. Joseph, and that's a huge event, and we love it, And all these guys from down south need to come up here on the river sometime and fish that event, and I think they won't be disappointed.
Jim, I think that those guys down south and out east are afraid of the Missouri River. And they can say what they want about, oh, no, we're not. But any of them that's ever been up here and jumped on that Missouri River usually don't come back. They've never seen anything like it. They think,
look, Lyle, just because you invited Dieter Melhorn and he didn't come doesn't mean any of us other guys won't come, okay? Okay?
Man, we'll go. I promise you, I'm not afraid of it, but it does bear some respect. But it is, a lot of these guys say, "Oh hell, we got 3-4 mile an hour current." Well, for the most part, the Missouri River don't ever get down that low.
You double that a little bit in some areas of the Missouri. Well, that's one thing about Caw Point. We have a lot of events at Caw Point, and a lot of guys don't like that. But they don't fish our events anyway. They're vocal about it, but they don't.
What's a popular technique fishing the Missouri River?
Yeah,
in the summer.
But the Caw Point event, you got the Kansas and Missouri River where they meet. So you have a lot lower current in the Kansas, and then you got the Missouri. So when you launch from that point, you got two rivers to fish from, And but I think another reason why a lot of guys from down south don't come up is they have a lot of times different boats. They're lake guys and they have different boats.
It is,
and they just don't. They're competing in a rough fishing environment. In a lot of these guys' backyards, so they need to come up and just in recreational fish it for a couple seasons, and then come up here and fish these tournaments.
Well, they have to learn those wing dikes and all the spots that will destroy a boat.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things on the Missouri River, especially Missouri, Mississippi too, but especially the Missouri. You have wing dikes, and some of them have been let go, and I understand they're not going to repair any of them anymore because there's not enough barge traffic anymore. So there'll be more deterioration of them, and then they won't be showing. And your mapping may show it to be there, and if it shows one to be there and you don't see it, you better believe it's still there. It didn't, the whole thing didn't go away. And there's a lot of things that you need to watch. The Missouri River is a great place to fish. There's giant fish on there. Since they have stopped the commercial fishing on the Missouri years ago, it has become a premier place to catch large fish. But it does bear anybody that's never been on it, I would highly recommend that comes up to fish to get somebody to go out with you in a boat and show you some of the stuff to look for to prepare you for what you're in for.
That's one thing about our page is a lot of these guys, they are more than willing. If someone's from out of town's wanting to come up here and fish, a lot of these guys are more than willing to take them out for the first time and show them. Just point out the obstacles to them, talk to them about it. We will do it in a heartbeat, but there's guys that are 1,000 more times more experienced on that river than I am. And I like the Missouri River, and I like the Kansas River too, but they know it. They've grown up on it versus me, fishing for the last 5 or 6 years. But they'll show them. So if someone wants to come up, they just got to post on our page, allamericancatfish.com, and somebody will take them. Somebody will show them.
Yeah.
Follow them around the boat, and so they can mark it on their own fish finders and things. They've done it. They've done it quite a bit.
I seen just a minute ago, Dave Swearingen was in here. Dave's fished that a lot. And, you guys have got a great group of guys that fish the Kansas City tournaments, and most of them are really tough competitors. People overlook them as the quality of fishermen that's in your area, but you got some of the greatest fishermen in the world that fish in that area.
Yeah, they're great guys. They really are, and they really support us. They really support our sponsors. They support other anglers. Whenever an angler needs a hand, these guys drop everything to give them a hand. There's a lot of good people up here, so that's really good. Cool. And they know how to fish. I mean, I wish I had a fish finder as good as Marty Dara.
Oh yeah, Marty's a great fisherman anyhow.
But they know it, and there's other guys, and I can rattle off, a couple dozen names of people who they're not fishing just a small little section of Missouri River. They can pick a spot within a couple 100 miles of it, and they know what they're doing. They know how to bring in those fish.
You mentioned this tournament coming up of Dave's Studebaker's. Is that the big one where they have the opportunity to win a new Chevrolet pickup?
That's right. They can. It's a St. Joe Reed Chevrolet Classic. It's up in St. Joe, Missouri. I believe it's September. Go to catfishchasers.com and see it. But they have a chance to win a truck and a boat this year.
A truck and a boat this year?
Truck and a boat this year.
Wow.
So that's well over $100,000 right there in that package alone, on top of the cash they would win. So, it's a big deal. And the guys come from all over to fish it. and it's good. I mean, it's a good event, and that's what we want to grow up to be. We want to get one or two of our events to get close to that, and he kind of sets, him and Craig, they put a lot of effort into that, and that's Craig's backyard, and he puts a lot of effort in working with St. Joe to develop that event, and it helps us. It really, really helps us. So
Dave said there's more bait in the Missouri River than he's ever seen. Wow, that's a statement.
yeah, that's what I keep hearing. And a lot of these guys that grew up out here talked about how the flood years, last year was a flood year, how that really could produce some record fish in the following years. So we had a flood year. Now we're following up with an isolation year. So there's going to be some fish, in the next couple of years. There's going to be some huge ones caught out of there.
Well, usually after we have a big flood year, we get fish moved around, and they'll be fish in places that haven't been fished.
Speaking of big fish, Tim, I apologize if it sounds like I'm interrupting, but there's a huge delay on my end.
Yep.
I saw on your Facebook group that you caught a 93.75 pounder, if I'm not mistaken. You want to tell us a little bit about that? And was that close to being the Missouri state record? I'm assuming it was in Missouri.
Oh, so that fish was caught by Adam Funk. And Eddie Henney and Adam Funk were out fishing, and a lot of the guys know them real well. They produce some quality fish, and they caught that fish, and they called me and said, hey, we need some good scales, some certified scales. We think we have the state record. And according to their scales, it was well over what the posted state record was for Kansas.
I've been there.
And they know the drill, right? You don't believe the first report. Let's trust but verify. And they were hoping, how exciting that is when your scale, it's 110 pegs out. So sure enough, they call me to get me my scales up there. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Then I said, wait a minute, my scales are getting recalibrated right now because we do that a few times a year. So I called Dave Studebaker and said, Dave, Eddie and Adam have this fish out there. He'd just been out fishing all day and was putting his boat up. So he grabbed his scales, put them in the truck, and took off. And an hour later, we're both meeting up at the boat ramp with these guys and weighed it. But it came out to 93.75 pounds. And that's after, how fish are after they sit in a live well for a while. They're purging, right? They're dropping weight. So it was a couple hours in that live well.
Wow.
So basically 94 pounds after sitting there for a couple hours. But that's not the biggest. Kyle Kohler, he got I think it's 97 pounds. Joel Roberts, he's caught, I think, a 93 and a 96 pound, I think is what it was. So he's done it a few times now. And Justin Thornton, Dave Shipman, all these guys, these guys bring in some weight, Andy Carnes, Randy Morgan, they bring in those guys when they fish our events. They fish in Missouri, and when they bring in fish to weigh in one of our events, they're going to bring some weight.
Yeah,
and those fish are in there.
Yeah, they're like I say, I can remember the time when there wasn't that many big fish caught in the Kansas City area. You catch some 70s and 80s every year, but the last several years, there's been a lot of 90, around 100-pound fish caught up there every year. And you did used to see that, I attribute that to the fact that they stopped all commercial fishing on the Missouri River from where it comes in on the west side of the state to the east side. There's no commercial fishing, and that's why them fish are there. They don't go in there and clean them out the wintering holes like they do on the Mississippi River, and it takes years to overcome that, and it's showing. It's showing on the Missouri that it's paying off to have stopped that.
So one of the things we do the last few years, we've been fortunate to be able to do is partner with the conservation guys a lot. So whenever we have an event at Kansas City, they're there, and anglers are very used to this by now. They're there, and they show up in the conservation team. and they're weighing. So we weigh in fish up there, and right before the fish get released, the conservation guys will take the blue cats, and they'll get a weight and they'll tag them and release them. So that's been going on at our events out of Cop Point for the last few years. And so they've been doing this study. In the last couple of years, they did a pretty comprehensive study. And basically, the Kansas River is producing some very large fish. And the Missouri River still produces large fish, but I think the numbers, and I may get it a little bit wrong, but basically as it gets closer to the Mississippi, they're not seeing as many being reported, being caught there. But as it works its way up, there's more and more being reported. To your point, out of that Mississippi River area.
Mm-hmm.
So the next year, we've been talking with the conservation guys again. We're going to be taking it up a little step and doing some more documentation for them to help them with their study. And so yeah, I mean, hopefully it keeps growing. Hopefully the fish population gets better and better each year. I think the flood year helped it, although it sucked for us. The virus year is going to help with that, although it's going to suck for us. That's the way it goes, though.
It is, and nobody anticipated that this coronavirus would affect. Well, nobody knew it was going to happen to start with. Nobody knew it was going to affect the fishing world like it has. And like I say, I'm not sure that a lot of these big tournaments are going to go ahead. I think some of them will be canceled or rescheduled. And then I just don't see the turnout. I know everybody's raring to go. All the people that normally fish tournaments, they want to fish. But then again, there's going to be a percentage of them that being off work all this time is not going to be able to afford to. There's also going to be a percentage of them that's going to be leery that they will catch this still. And when you get at a big weigh-in and a big tournament, there is no way that you can be 6 or 7 feet away from people or whatever the legal limit is. People want to shake hands. They want to visit with guys that they only see once or twice a year. And it's going to be hard. One of the biggest things about big tournament fishing, sitting out at the motels on the tailgate, having beverages and visiting and just enjoying the evening with guys that you only see once or twice a year. And that won't be like it normally is.
Amen.
You won't be able to, JR, you won't be able to grab guys like Bill Parfit and give him a hug just because he's there, because you may not see him but once a year. Guys like that you miss so much. And when you see them, you want to touch them. You want to shake their hand.
I know. And I'm a hugger. I'm such a hugger.
Yeah. And, but it's
hard for that, but yeah.
Guys sitting out there barbecuing and everybody going out and eating dinner together. Well, hell, you take 30 or 40 guys in a restaurant and you got to be 6 or 8 feet apart. You got to yell and get pool cues to pass the bread and stuff. It's going to be hard.
I mean, look at these bigger events, how they normally facilitate their captain's meeting.
Half of us are already hard of hearing.
That's fact. But you're right, Tim. We've said in Memphis, and if anybody that's been down to that big tournament down there, you go up in the pyramid up there, and it's elbow to elbow, and you can't. I mean, you're scrunched up.
Yeah. So you look at the bigger events, how they facilitate the captain's meeting. Look how they have their vendor booths set up. Look how they. So some states right now, and some people may not realize this, some states right now won't rent a hotel room to somebody out of state.
Really?
So that's an issue right now. There's some guys that were talking about on our page the other day, and on their personal posts in probably more detail. They traveled all the way down south to go somewhere. They got there, had the room. They called and said, "Hey, are you guys open?" They're like, "Yeah, we're still open." Called the hotel. The hotel's still open. They get there and said, "Yeah, we can't rent a room to you from out of state." And they're like, "What the heck?
I've never heard that.
Why didn't you say that when I called to see if you were open in the first place?" So, we don't know how long this is going to be. We don't know if there's going to be, 2 or 3 waves to all this. We don't know what long-term restrictions there may be for events and event planners. I got a call back to some people in sports media, and they want to talk about some events and things. And I told Dave that when I have that meeting with him, I want to bring him in. But we just don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different things. For our events, it's changed it. I mean, and some of you know this already. We like to have food and drinks out for everybody. In the morning, we like to have coffee, snacks, donuts, grab and go stuff, chips. Christy Berglund, our photographer, she makes cookies and treats and things like that. We want the anglers to grab bottles of water and Gatorade, grab their coffee, grab their donuts, get on their boats, put them in the water. When they do weigh-in, we normally have, if it's a day tournament, we have pulled pork sandwiches or chili dogs, or we feed these guys. That's probably going to have to stop.
Yeah,
while this is going on.
Well, that's
if it's a night tournament, we have biscuits and gravy, and the guys get to sit with each other and talk about their fishing night and everything, and have a good meal before they leave. And it's great. It's great to build camaraderie. And unfortunately, that right now,
instead of food and drinks, it's going to be masks and hand sanitizer.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Dave Swearington said he won't be able to share his chili with Cindy and I, and that may be true because we've done that at Wheeler. They had too much, and Cindy always makes a bunch of stuff, and she shares it with everybody around her, and things like that we're do may be a thing of the past. Jay's Catfishing said this is a normal life from now on. It's not going to be like it was before, and I'm afraid that could happen, that it won't never go back to like it was. And if that's the case, that'd be a terrible shame.
Well, one thing is, just like everything else we've seen in history, and the military is a great example of this, there's a knee-jerk reaction, and we shift all the way to the other side of the spectrum. And we get tired of that, the other end of the spectrum, and we shift right back to where we were before. And I think we'll see that. I think things are going to change, but overall, I think it's going to get pretty close to normal. People are just going to be more aware. But we'll see. Right. At this point, we're going to see. For us, we still want to put events on for these guys, and we want them to have a good time. For us, our events it's a competitive fishing event, but it's also about socializing, seeing your buddies, and we really try to build that community sense in our events and on our page. We are not a normal tournament series. In our Facebook group is not a normal tournament page. And we wanted to keep it that way as much as possible. So we're going to do everything we can. Like today, I posted, hey, where can I get some masks and sanitizer? And I got flooded with, guys helping us out, and it's great. These guys are all over the country.
That's good, because it hasn't been but a couple of weeks, Tim, to where it wasn't just toilet paper you couldn't get. You couldn't get hand sanitizer or stuff your hands with in our area. There was a whole bunch of stuff that you just couldn't get.
Yeah, and we have sponsors like the Stovers at Macy's Fish Supply. They want to know what they could do to help. We have our anglers that, hey, I can't fish this year because we're too busy or we're not working, but what can I do to help you with your events? And it's great. So it's a great community. I think we're going to get through this. The events may be just a little bit different for now in the short, near-term future, but we're going to do everything we can to get back to the way things were for us.
Yeah. We have, I'm looking for, Mr. Fish says he thinks that it will take a couple of years before handshakes make a comeback, kind of like bell bottoms. Well, that may be the case. I hope it's not, because, we was out getting out of the house here about a week ago, and I needed a couple little pieces welded. And there's a guy that I used to share business with years ago. He had a muffler shop, and I'd send exhaust work to him. The stuff that he didn't do, he'd send to us, and we worked back and forth for years and years and years. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. And I stopped in, and he didn't even recognize me. It'd been so long since I seen him. I told him who I was, and he said, "Oh man," he come up there and we shook hands. And you don't think about it, but I did think about it, but I knew all the time it was Sheldon, and I could not do it. But if it was somebody I don't know, would I have done it? Maybe not.
Yeah, it's my last event. The guy's like, "No, I'm shaking your hand, Tim."
If I seen you today, it'd be the same way. and like it was with Sheldon. But if you see somebody you don't know, is it going to be that way?
And I've seen in the comments, and it's a good point. In Southeast Asia, and I was deployed to different parts of Southeast Asia, and it's very common in their culture to walk around with the mask. Anytime they got the sniffles, they just do. It's very common. They have low masks on, and they get on the subway and the train and go into the store. Especially the elderly or someone, like I said, has got a cold or allergies or whatever, they'll put that mask on. You go do something, you'll see a half a dozen people, just walking around with those masks on. And I do believe that will be what America starts looking like. We'll adopt that as more of a custom, I think, the rest of the Western world anyway.
That'd be tough. David, Martin, I'm glad to know that you shook hands with Patriot James. I would have done the same thing if I got to meet him, and it'd be just like shaking hands with JR or Tim. I couldn't say no. If their hand come out, I'm grabbing it.
Man, you might want to get some strong hand sanitizer for that. maybe pour a little bottle of gasoline or something in there in your pocket.
JR, a lot of guys have a lot of different things in their boat. They wash their hands off to keep the fish and scales and stuff. Well, I use lava soap.
Lava soap.
My sister, when I was little, she used to wash my mouth out with soap. And if nothing else would work, lava soap would make me stop saying things you wasn't supposed to. Believe me. I had it a lot. And
it's very gritty. Very gritty. It's like sandpaper.
You get a taste out of your mouth, but she done that to me until I was big enough she couldn't catch me. And I use that in the boat, and it lasts a long time, and it's very inexpensive. But, I'll have a bar for you in case, you're worried about it.
Well, maybe I can have some conversation now that I figured out the lag.
There you go.
So.
Take off, man.
Techniques, Missouri River, you caught the 90-something pounder in March. I know I've heard there's 3-4 mile an hour current in the Missouri. What techniques are you using to fish the Missouri River?
So the 93-pound was caught in the Kansas River by Adam Funk.
Okay.
And I will auction off their techniques if anybody wants to start the bidding. We can go there.
I imagine there's some current. You guys are probably You're probably bumping.
So the Kansas is a lot lower current, especially where they were at that time was very, very low current. So, there's different techniques for that with structure and just, but on the Missouri side, I'm still at the technique where I'm really good at feeding the fish, not necessarily getting them in the boat, So, I still look for structure. And Eddie Henney and I a couple years ago were up fishing a tournament, and we bumped. And he doesn't mind bumping. A lot of these guys are very good. And the guy I remember bumping the most, and not saying he is the first guy to do it, but the guy I remember doing it early was Joel Roberts. And years ago, he was bumping. He was the one, and everyone's like, what is he doing? And he was landing numbers. And he invested the time into bumping the channel swings and, and just the outside bends and things like that. He put a lot of effort in, and a lot of people follow his lead and ask him a lot of questions and on that. So bumping is something him and a lot of the guys do. Justin Thornton, Dave in the chat there, he's doing it. A lot of these guys bump the Missouri River.
Now you guys you're limited on rods, right? You only have so many rods you can use per person.
In our events, it's up to 6 rods per team. On the Kansas side, if you're fishing by yourself, it's 3 rods is your max. But on the Missouri side, you can have up to 6 rods, again, max.
I think that's one of the contributing reasons as to why we don't do a lot of bumping down here, is because we have an unlimited amount of rods we can use. Yeah. So it's either we can bump or we can throw out 27 rods.
So
and I think we typically choose 27 rods.
Yeah, and so I told Eddie this. I said, look, if I bump 2 hours with 1 rod, that's 2 hours of bait time in the water. But if I'm anchored up and I have 6 rods out, that's 12 hours of bait in the water.
It is. But you're not covering any water, but still,
Well, you can still walk that bait back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You control it.
You're in 3 to 5 knot current. You can still walk it back, and let your anchor rope out and move down. You can do that a little more slow and deliberately.
I just don't want to be the guy that has to pull the anchor rope back in when you do that technique. The guys that let a little more anchor rope out, and then you got the guy that has to go up there and pull all that in.
Yeah.
That's when you start the big motor up and you take the boat where the anchor's at.
There better be some chemistry between the driver and the guy pulling it in, because usually the driver's like talking to somebody else, not paying attention, and the boat's not even moving. And you're like, hey, come on. You're trying to pull the anchor rope and you're not moving.
Yeah, no, and it's one thing on the Missouri, you don't get a second chance on those kind of mistakes. So whenever the guy's on the anchor rope, we take all commands from them, and our eyes are on the anchor guy, and we make sure. But yeah, so that's how I look at it. In North Carolina, when I was out there, we got as many rods out there as we want. So we're saturating. We have them spread out and rings and everything else, and we're going to town on there. And when they're biting, you just pull in what you can manage, and keep it out what you can manage. But in the Missouri, so a lot of the guys fish the wing dikes, on that scene, the current scene. The fish will stack up in there. Sometimes they'll go in the holes, depending on what time of year it is. The flatheads, be around structure. And like I said, these guys are a lot better at it than I am. I have luck still fishing structure in some current where there's some oxygen flow out. And on the current seam, like on an inside bend, I'll get where that current seam's starting to pick up at. And if there's structure there, I like that spot. If it's a wing dike off the tail end of the wing dike and there's a current seam, I like that spot too. If it's an outside bend and there's a lot of rocks there and stuff, I like that, and sometimes behind a wing dike, if the water's rolling over a wing dike, I like that. Are you frozen over there? Looks like his system froze.
Yeah, he may be froze.
Or he's sitting really still, but yeah.
Locked up. He's having connection. There he's back.
There he goes. He's back.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I think we got that quarantine internet going on right now.
Like Parks Enterprises has Parks planer boards, and he's made these big ones, big heavy ones that'll hold some serious weight in that river and that current, and they'll spread your lines out, and that's another way to walk that bait back. Get it wide and walk it back down, under those wing dikes. If the water's rolling over a wing dike, because not all wing dikes are created equally. So you have your wing dike, you have your trail dikes and things like that. So if the water's rolling over the wing dike, I like to get up behind that where that ripple's taking place and get my lines out there and move them back out. If they're coming up out of that channel switch to feed up on the sandbars, it just depends what time of year and what's going on.
I think most of these guys that are a little east of y'all are probably looking up what the heck a wing dike is right now. But I guarantee you're probably using some short leaders if you're fishing current like that. And I heard you talking about fishing holes, and I imagine those big flatheads, they'll get your bait, and you're probably not wanting your bait to swim around a whole lot and get you hung up. So you're probably using some shorter leaders on those rigs. So they use a lot of the guys that we use pretty long leaders. Some guys do, some guys don't. But the barrel swivels, the chain swivels, those help a lot with spitting bait from your line twisting and things like that. Yeah.
And the demon dragons are those, a lot of guys use those and had some success with them, with the little rattles on them, line rattles. Like I said, I'm not, guys that know me, I enjoy fishing. I'll put the effort into it and everything else. I don't have one technique that ever works, consistently. Right. It's when it comes to tournament fishing, my biggest weakness is I don't make the adjustment as quick as a lot of these other guys do. They know what they're doing, and that's why I think it's important if people want to come up here and fish, come up and fish. Let some of these guys take you out and show you. If the water's rolling over a wing dike, I'll still have my lead out there. I'll have a 3-way swivel there, and my weight down, drop down and keep the weight, or keep my bait and the leader line off the bottom a little bit, or I may have a planer board and move it around a lot more, keep it active. Other guys will fish, the Carolina rig and drop it right there on the bottom, and then throw it off to the side and let it just move little by little around to the back of the boat. That way, that bait's always rolling and always moving. And even if they're anchored, it's still getting a lot of real estate underwater and moving in front of stuff. So, I've literally dropped bait a foot, maybe a foot, as far as a foot off the end of a wing dike in the water, and just had fish take it and run with it. They're right up on the rocks a lot of times in those wing dikes.
Tim, you want to go ahead and tell us what a wing dike is?
So a wing dike, I'm
sure a lot of our listeners don't know.
Yeah, so they have multiple purposes. Help keep the channel deep in debris and the channel, like I said, deep for the navigation coming up with the barges and stuff like that, and erosion control. So you have a pile of rocks, like an arm, that come off from the bank and they come out in the middle of the river, and they keep it tall enough, or the intent is to keep it tall enough to where the water hits it, it pushes it back into the main channel of the river and keeps that current up. And then on the other side of the wing dike, you pull up your boat up there, and it's a lot calmer current.
Ah, okay. So the wing dike's creating kind of like a little eddy right there that you can get.
Yeah, like you probably seen like a barrier waters or out in the ocean, right?
Almost like a jetty, Yeah,
exactly. And so it does that. And so some come straight out or at an angle out to the middle of the river. Some come out for a little bit and then go down with the current. That's the trail dike, right? So it comes out and makes and so it just depends. And if it's a bend in the river, if it's straight away in the river, what they will be. And a lot of the fish finders have those on there now, where the wing dikes were, set up by the Corps and all that.
Yeah,
they do
card to show them.
Yeah, and so a lot of guys, they rely on them. They go from one wing dike to the next. Other guys who are bumping, they'll go in that channel swing. Some guys will anchor up in the channel swing and not even mess with the wing dike necessarily. Again, time of year, water temperature, current, activity of the fish. I think that could be a whole show for you, as Missouri River fishing techniques.
The original wing dikes, I believe, was put in. A lot of them was done with wood and rocks. Now that I think all of them are just rock, but they was to direct current out into the main river channel to keep it deep enough for barges. Before they had dredging machines and stuff like that, and it would wash out and keep the channel deeper. And they've been
very cool. I'm looking at images on Google now of wing dikes.
And the problem is when the water gets high, if you don't know where they're at and you don't have a card in a depth finder that'll tell you where they're at, or you can't see them, they will destroy a lower unit and more. I've seen the back of boats taken completely off. The back part where the completely
strip the transom right off of it.
Strip them right off. People running wide open. Now this was a long time ago, but they will do massive destruction. But for flood,
I imagine it's very hangy trying to fish around those, especially the rock if they're made out of rock.
They'll come off at an angle off of a bank, and at the end of them, where the current rolls out, there's always a big scour hole. And they get really deep, and there's always good fish in them.
I saw that on here, that scour hole, yeah.
Sometimes you get them to go, and sometimes you can't. But if you're in that scour hole and they're loaded up, and every one of them doesn't hold fish, but a lot of them do. If you're on the right one, that's a productive day of fishing.
It's a moneymaker for you. So, in up north, like where Kyle Kohler has a lot of his, White Cloud and several of those guys, that river is different up there than what is in the city area or down by Jefferson City.
And it's
say again?
Not as wide. The river isn't as
wide. The wing dikes are built up still. They're not worn down because they don't have all that as much water and current. It's my biggest fish. We went up. We were fishing wing dikes, pre-fishing for an event, and so we went out there, and I pulled up on this wing dike, and we anchored up, threw our anchor out right above it, and I let anchor rope out enough to where I was just right above the tip. And I threw out because where the wing dike tip was, the current seam, there was also some structure there. So I threw it out there, said, I think this is going to be good. And I no longer put my lines out, sat down, started talking with my fishing partner, and the rod just bent over violently. And we have some video of it. It's not a very good video because it was at night. But about 45 minutes later, we were chasing that fish downriver. And we finally got him. It took us both to get him in the boat. It was a huge fish. We didn't have scales big enough that night to weigh him.
Flathead?
No, it was a blue. It was huge.
Blue? Okay.
And the other guys on the river did not have scales big enough. So we put the fish back. We just put him back, so called it good, and said, all right, we'll look for another fish in that spot the next tournament. We skunked out. So, that's how it goes. But
yeah.
But that, if I can find structure around those tips, that's what I like. That's what I like the most. But the other guys, they're great at bumping. I took Eddie Henney out bumping for his first time. His first pass, I think it was 67 pound. First time bumping, first pass around one bend. I told him this
beginner's luck.
Yeah, 67 pounds.
Welcome, Sonny. Glad to
he's been trying to replicate that bumping technique since, I bet.
Yeah, he's ruined.
Oh, yeah. The first time that you catch one, JR, bumping, and you're holding on to that rod and you're bumping bait 100 feet or 200 feet behind the boat, and that fish grabs that bait. He's in you got to have current because you can't do it unless there's current. He's trying to take that rod away from you, and you're trying to say you can't have it. And the very first time it happens, you'll never forget because it's really exciting way to catch fish. But now
I imagine they feel like an amberjack in that current sometimes.
Well, sometimes. Now we also run dead sticks a lot of time outside the boat where they're going straight down while we're drifting backwards at a reduced speed in the current and bumping behind us. We'll have dead
You're just suspending them?
Yeah. Just
okay.
off the bottom. Couple
right.
Yeah. And there's days when that's more productive than bumping.
Yeah.
But that's probably rare, I'm sure. The days that suspending them are
more productive than bumping. It is, but if you're in a tournament and you pick up one or two fish that way and 3 or 4 the other way, then maybe your big fish. Or
I know in these southern reservoirs, when you're trolling, most of the time you're going to pick most of your fish up on the bottom, dragging the bottom. But I always suspend at least one bait, and every once in a blue moon, that'll be the only rod that catches fish. They'll just be on that suspend bite.
I've heard stories of a good friend of mine, name is Joe Lucky, lives in Springfield, Illinois, and guys tell me that he always puts a dead stick out the front of the boat, even though they're fishing out of the back, and he'll suspend that off of the bottom. And I
like how you say dead stick.
There are a lot of times.
Old Missouri.
Yeah,
that's a Missouri term.
they're fishing out the back, and they'll hear something and turn around, and that rod off the front of the boat that nobody's watching has got a giant on it. It happens to him a lot. But
when someone says dead stick, I think ice fishing. I'm thinking, how they put the little tiny jig and they'll have like a strike indicator and they'll put it over the hole in the shanty and they'll just let it sit there, and actually that's called dead sticking. So it's just weird to hear it referred to catfishing.
Dead stick is the one that's out the side of the boat that you're not doing nothing with, and we've run planer boards out the side of the boat, and while we was bumping and forced bait away from the boat too. It just depends on the situation. There's a lot of ways.
Let's talk a little more about this tournament that's coming up. That's going to have an extra $12,000 attached to it. Let's talk a little more about that.
Okay, so we were having the main monster cats we were going to have that in May, Memorial Day weekend. That's going to be $7,000 added money to it, and it's a 2-day event. But it doesn't look like we're going to be able to have that because the Kansas City, it's in Kansas City at Cop Point there, and they're indefinitely right now shut down having events. The parks can't issue permits. So we're looking at September. So we're going to take all that money, move it there to the September event, which is the Heartland Challenge. So the Heartland Challenge replaced what we used to call the Border Wars event. So the Heartland Challenge, we changed the name of it, kind of restructuring it a little bit. We want that to be an event that we bring people in from south and around outside the normal immediate region to come in here and compete. And it gives them, if we have it in September, it gives them a chance throughout the summer to come up here and recreational fish, right? Not worrying about ice and things like that if we have it too early in the year.
There you go, Lyle.
Heck
You
yeah.
gonna get in it?
It depends on what it takes place between now and then. I'm wanting to get up there. I've only fished one of Tim's events since he's been doing. I've only had a chance to fish one. So if all this stuff clears out, we're allowed to show up at some of Tim's events. We need to get. I've never fished that far north on the Missouri. So hell, come on out, JR. We'll go fish that baby.
Hey, I think that might be. We might have to plan that. That sounds like a fun tournament.
So it's Friday night. We'll have a captain's meeting. Maybe we'll see how that's going to be structured with all this. Saturday, you have your fishing, weigh in, come back again. Sunday morning, we'll do the whole launch again. Check everybody in, get them launched. Fishing again, weigh in, combine the both days, and that's who's going to win it. And so we have some sponsors where we had $5,000 already allocated for that event, but since we're not having the May one, we're just going to combine that $7,000 and the other $5,000, and that's going to give us the $12,000. So we talked to one of the sponsors that had that $10,000 out of money, and they're like, "Yeah, this may work perfect. If we can just get the one in, hotels are going to need to get the rooms rented. So." That's the success of all this, and that's what a lot of people I think overlook is a lot of the anglers want added money. They all want added money. Well, for cities to add money in, they have to have hotel sales. So you can't have added money and not have a hotel sales, right? So you can't have you're just not going to have it. But so anglers, some are very supportive and they'll go ahead and bite the bullet and get that hotel room. Other anglers won't, and that makes it extremely difficult for us to repeat getting that money again. And so with the Heartland Challenge having $12,000, hopefully we'll get a lot more people brought in this year where we bump those numbers up and we keep having that money added to that event year after year. The last few years, we invested a lot to Kansas City. And the reason that is with about 7 or 8 tournament series in this general area within Kansas and Missouri, nobody was putting in events at Kansas City. After Brad Kilpatrick retired, no one was doing it except us. And so we invested in there. Now they're investing back in us. And we could branch out to other locations, but those other locations are so saturated with events right now. Almost every weekend there's another event going on in 1 or 2 same places. So, it's
I wondered how y'all kept from stepping on each other's toes.
Exactly. And we, a lot of us are trying to work together. You see it on our page. If other tournament series are mentioning us and promoting our events, we're going to promote theirs all day long too. We all want to get along. So that's what you see on our page. We don't mind talking about other events as long as everyone's getting along. But on our website, if somebody wants to know all the events that we have records on, they can go to our website and see about, I think, 7 or 8 other tournament series in their events for the whole year that we know of right now are listed on there. But on our Facebook page, we have some, this is the general location, general region here. Central Missouri Cats, Cat Catchers, Catfish Chasers, PBSS, things like that. All these guys are real close together, and we all fish each other's events. And at the events, we all mention each other's events. Hey, like this one coming up this weekend is Catfish Chasers, and at Perry Lake, Perry Reservoir in Kansas. And that you're going to hear about that lake in the coming years. That's going to be a great blue cat lake. We just had our event. That's the one I was talking about earlier.
You need to get some of these new guys like the Big Cat Fever and Bloodline and a lot of these Lightning Bugs, a lot of these new up and coming catfish brands in the industry. It'd be nice if we could get some of them to help sponsor some of these tournaments that y'all are having.
Yeah, and so the great thing is like we have Macy's Fish and Fine and Big Cat Fever. They're a retailer for Big Cat Fever rods, so we benefit from that directly. And they carry other brands of catfish rods too, so they throw in thousands of dollars on our events every year. And,
that's good.
And they are great, family-owned business. And if anyone doesn't know, if you look on our page and you see Macy's Fish and Finds, you are not going to get your gear any cheaper than what you can get from them. The real the cheapest place you're going to find those quality pen reels and the Kumas, everything else. They will. If you want a product, give Macy's Fish and Finds a call and ask them what their price is, and they'll work with you on it.
What's the name of them one more time? Macy's
Fish and Finds.
Okay.
It's on our page, and I'll post another image of them here pretty soon. But I guarantee you will have a very difficult time getting reels and poles and everything at their prices. Nets, unless they're locked into a price, they're going to give it to you cheaper than what you get it anywhere else.
I'm sure they're probably online as well.
Yes.
You have a Facebook group, but it's they like to develop that relationship with their anglers. Let's put it this way. Easter Sunday morning, they drove 2.5 hours to meet somebody to bring them their fishing gear that they needed. So that's to make sure
that's good. That's a good relationship.
Yeah, and so they have delivery runs. They'll mail. They sell stuff to different countries, different states. I mean, they are great.
Lyle's broken out the fly swat. So
there he is. He's getting serious.
He's getting serious.
That's so nice. I had the door open all day, and when I do that, I load up on flies, and I can't stand for the little bastards to light on me. So I'm before you get too carried away here, Tim, Sonny wants to know if you're going to have a safety boat at them tournaments.
Oh, Sonny. Yeah. So thanks, Sonny. Sonny is our safety boat guy. So Sonny, and again, this is another example of, he fishes that St. Joe one. He helps them run that one too. And Sonny's all about helping people promote, fishing, and him and I have talked quite a bit about some other locations we have not disclosed yet. But yeah, Sonny said he would come down and he'd have his boat ready and standing by and in safety boats, because
that's awesome.
You're not going to have too many second chances on the Missouri River if things go haywire. You're not going to row back upstream to get to it. No. And so Sonny, he's going to come down for those 2 days. We're going to get him hooked up with a hotel, and he's going to have his boat out there, and he'll be able to tow people in and help them if they're broke down and get them in. So that's great. And that's, so thanks to Sonny, hats off.
Yep.
But that's a guy that's very representative of the type of anglers we have fish our events. That's a guy looking out for other anglers.
That's right.
He sees the potential of a big event. He's going to set aside, not fish it, although he could win some money in it. But he wants to make sure that the anglers are taken care of too. And that's how everyone is around here.
The only event of yours that I ever fished, Cindy and I fished, was Sonny. And we didn't do any good in the tournament, but we had one of the most fun days on the water that you could absolutely have. It was so cold out there in December. But
oh Lord, if Lyle's saying it's cold, it must have been cold.
Well, I used to never hear me complain about cold weather, but it was cold that day. And Sonny, we had a great time with him. He's such a swell guy. And we had 2 heaters in the boat, JR, just thawing out the windshield to get the frost of us so we could see where the hell he's going. I mean, it was cold.
It must have been like 17 degrees or something.
I don't remember. Do you, Tim?
It may have got up to 17 degrees that day, but it was so cold that boats froze on the trailer.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
So I just posted on our Facebook group All American Catfish Tournaments, the Macy's Fish and Spines logo, and their contact numbers right there, and their link to their Facebook group.
Yeah, and any of that stuff you want to share to Catfish Weekly, Tim, feel free to. Of course, you already know that, but Macy's Fish and Fine has been a great sponsor of yours. They've done some wonderful things for the catfishing industry in our area, and overall, they probably got as good a price as any, and probably better service than most.
Yeah,
and take care of people.
People are shocked when they give them a call, and they find out what they can get 3 reels for. They're like, "What?"
Yeah, and like I say, I've never been to their store. I've never purchased anything from them, but I've never heard anything bad about them ever.
Yeah,
it's all positive, all good, and people talk about how they go out of their way to do things for not only the person buying it, but other people. And they're always making posts about, hey, we're going to be in such and such. Anybody need anything? Bring them when we come. And nobody else does the things they do. Nobody does that.
They deliver, and they don't just like deliver to the next town. These guys are going to Arkansas. They're going to Oklahoma. They make this big long trip around from Missouri around. They're a little town, Chula, Missouri. People come from different states just to go to their store. Their stores also got agriculture parts in it, and but they are cat fishermen. And you walk in there, it's everything that you would want to rig a boat and build your tackle box from scratch and for catfishing. I mean, it just is.
It's awesome.
If they have something in there, it's going to go quick. If they have a new product, it's because they believe in it, or they're testing it out, and it's going to go quick. And they put a lot of effort in. Long days. They have long days in that store, getting things resupplied, restocked, orders out. You won't be disappointed with them.
Yeah.
And a man and a wife, their kids.
What's that?
It's a man, a wife, and a kid, and 2 kids.
Macy's the youngest daughter.
It's the youngest daughter. That's what they.
So it's the store is called Macy's Fish and Spine, so that's her name on there.
Now, how old is Macy?
Skylar, she is 12 now, 12 or 13.
Okay, so she's a little girl then. Okay,
she works at store. She works. They make live videos of their products and stuff. The family's teaching her how to take that thing over.
That's good.
The other part of their store is Skylar Ag Parts, and he's 16 now, I guess, 60 because he's driving, so 15 and a half or 16, and they work. These kids work. They will throw a 50-pound bag of dog food around. No doubt. I mean, they get these bulk things of detergent, and they'll unload a semi of bulk detergents and dog food. They'll get it done. They'll get down there
awesome.
to the store, and
great folks.
And they earn a paycheck. And he bought Skylar. Like I said, 16, and he's bought a truck already. And he's making payments on it and everything. These guys are growing up right, and
that's good.
Working hard. But it's again, that's a reflection of the family. They like to fish. They give it a shot, and they have stuff from all different ends of the scale, So if you're on a budget, they've got something for you. If you like the higher end gear, they've got that for you too. If there's a gear that you think they should know about and try out, give them a call and let them know, and let them, order some and take a look at it.
Sounds a lot like we have a tackle shop that's very similar to what you're describing. It's called Bass Shack, and it's family owned, and the guy's daughter works in there. She's a little older than 12, but they're getting up in age. But same deal. They just a great tackle shop. And if these guys, if they don't start giving these places like this more business, if they everybody wants to do is shop online nowadays.
Yeah,
give it to your local businesses. Yeah,
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, it's people from Kansas City area drive right past Bass Pro, Cabela's, and others' place to go to their store. And when they go, you'll see it on our page. You probably did if you looked at our page today. The guys will post, "Hey, I'm going up to the Stovers. Who needs something?" And they'll bring back a truckload or a carload.
I'm sure they probably got a lot of stuff that you can't get at Bass Pro.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. That is so true.
especially catfishing. I mean, I'm 35 miles from the national headquarters and the biggest bass pro of all bass pros, and they don't have much catfishing stuff.
And the few things they
No, they
do,
don't.
if you have a question about it, the guys really can't really tell you about it.
No,
Oh.
they can't.
But you ask them about a bass plug or a rod or even fly fishing or crappie fishing, man, they'll rip them answers off right now. But you ask them something about catfishing, they just come up with this deer in the headlight look.
Yeah, they're going to show you the bag of red shad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or some stink bait.
The green shad in the bag is the moneymaker. A lot of people don't know that. That's the moneymaker.
Yeah, I long for the day. I walk into a Bass Pro and I see Big Cat Fever and Bloodline drift weights and drifting sticks and all these catfish brands. I'm hoping it's not going to be too long.
Actually, some of them don't want to be in them stores. Some of them companies don't want to be in there. And I really don't understand that other than the fact that they would have to buy so much product.
They can't meet the demand.
Yeah. You get a hookup with Walmart or with Bass Pro, and it's something that they think's really going to sell well. They're liable to order more the first time than a lot of them places sell in an entire year.
Well, the minimum order quantities on these the Chinese OEMs, it's hard to, you got to have some capital.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And a lot of these guys, unfortunately, they don't.
Yep, that's a fact.
Yeah,
but
and really, we're on the subject about the importing stuff. This is going to throw a wrench in all of that.
That's right.
We're going to see how that takes out next year.
For supplies for the stuff that I do right now.
It's really going to look at that. Look at the trade. And I watched. I'm a news junkie. When it comes to trade and foreign economies, things like that. Just because most of my life was spent dealing with something outside the continental United States. But you take a look at that, and there's going to be some residual effects of all of this on trades, and sanctions and import restrictions, and this is really going to shape up next year. We are far from over on this, and I think some of the people in chat's right. This is a couple-year process now.
Oh, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. So, when do you feel like is going to be your next tournament, Tim?
It'll be the end of May. We'll post it on our page. So the sequence of events for us when we have an event is we create a Facebook page or Facebook event, a calendar event for that. And we give some brief description where it's going to be at, location of it, and all of that, the pre-entry. When we do our pre-entry, we don't ask for the whole pre-entry. We ask for a placeholder, which is 25% of the entry fee. Because let's say it's $200 entry. Like our big event in September is going to be a $200 entry. Well, it's easier for somebody right now to commit $50 and secure their registration spot than to pay $200 right up front. That way they can set an allowance for themselves over time and save up that $200 if they're on a budget. But $50 is easy, easier than $200. So our normal entry fee is $160 for our normal events. $40 is the placeholder. So we have on our website, we have that you can pay the placeholder fee or you can pay the total amount for each event. So we add that on our Facebook event. Leading up to it, about a week out, we do a Facebook live feed to talk about the flow of the event. The day before the event, I put a text post on there of the day's events from the time we get there until weigh-in of how everything's going to go and what the angler requirements are. We're going to be there with the coffee on, registration at 4:30. We're going to play national anthem around 6:15 or do the safety briefing at 6:15 through the PA system while all the boats are idling in the water, and then play the national anthem. And then we'll start launching by 6:30, give you 30 minutes travel time before you start fishing. And we go through all the details of that. The reason we do all those all those steps is we attract a lot of first-time tournament anglers, and we want them to be as comfortable.
You want to give them that experience,
so they are well versed with everything when they get there. So that's not a distraction for them. They're already kind of anxious because they're going to compete against seasoned anglers in some cases. So let's take that away from them, that anxiety of what do we do next. Brief them,
Right.
make it overkill, get them
That's
on the water,
awesome.
and let them go fish and have a good
You seem
time.
like a very responsible, very modest tournament director.
I don't know about modest, but yeah.
Glad to have you on the show, man. Glad that you came on the show, and I'm hoping you'll come back. I know Lyle's had you on here a couple of times, and I can see why.
Absolutely. Well,
Good guess.
great job with these tournaments, and people love it. I tell you one thing that's going to be missed, because I know it's going to be really hard for you guys to do, is the meals that they always got snacks or meals or something at all their events, JR. And I don't know anybody
Coffee.
else does that.
I just need coffee. The fact that they have coffee just blows my mind. That's enough to get me on board right there.
Yeah, you can make sure you can chew our coffee, but we do. Food brings people together, and when you're competing, people come off the water and they're frustrated. And when they come off the water because they may not have placed as high as they wanted, they put all their effort into it. There's sometimes tension in that boat. There's tension against other teams. You put a plate of food in front of them, it's gone.
Makes everything better.
If you got a full belly, you're a lot easier to get along with than a guy.
You said that right.
Yeah, but to be honest, why we did this is, I hated leaving a tournament hungry because I ate all my stuff throughout the night or throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. 15, 20 minutes.
It turns out it wasn't frustration of getting beat in the tournament. It was you were just hungry.
Yeah, and you're
That's all it was.
on your snacks the whole freaking time, and but I didn't like stopping somewhere, and I don't want these guys stopping somewhere with all that gear in their boat trying to figure out what they're going to eat. So let's feed them before they leave. Let's get them some coffee and some energy drinks or whatever it is, Gatorade and water. Let's get them fed. Let's get them on and let them get them home without having to stop.
I think that's
there
a
you go.
idea.
If we're going to ask for $160 from them, they should get something out of it for us. That's how we look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a message from Jody McDaniel from Northern Missouri. Two Rivers Marine Catfish Tournament, June 6th. You can go to their Facebook page to get all the details. So those guys up in North Missouri are gearing up.
If he wants to sling that over to me on our page, I'll post it out there.
He evidently is watching the show. I haven't seen him on here tonight, but I will message him after the show because he texted this on my phone. But Jody's a great guy, and I will make sure that he does, and then you guys can share that. But he just texted me that message, so I think this series of tournaments is fixing to break loose. Like I say, I'm a little concerned about how it's going to affect some of the bigger events, and like I say, it's going to be tough. Brandy Brooks was in here a while ago, and I'm telling you. It would be really hard for us to see some of these folks like Brandy and a lot of the people that we set out in the parking lots and shoot the bull with when we're at them big tournaments and not give her a hug or shake her hand, or it'd be tough. I mean, we've been doing it a long time and know them people from a long time. Carl Wells is in chat. With him and his wife at a tournament not too long ago. Carl is a great guy. He sat with us last year at the Fishing for Freedom tournament at our table. Him and Jeremy Beecham did. And it was hard for me not to grab Carl up and give him a squeeze because he's such a great guy and think the world of him and his wife. I mean, when we get a chance to sit down and eat dinner with them, we're enjoying that and we're talking about things, and they're just good people. It would be really hard to be around those folks that we look forward to seeing all the time and not touch them or be as, have to visit with them like you and I are doing right now. I mean, that's the way most of the people are carrying on conversations, JR. They're visiting online on Skype or how we're doing it. Sonny Park, another one, Sonny is just a super guy. I think the world of him. It'd be really hard not to sit in the boat and get to laughing and slap him on the shoulder or the back or something. It'd be tough.
It would be.
Yep. So, guys, thanks for having me on tonight. Appreciate it.
Tim, thank you so much for coming on here. Anytime you've got a big
Absolutely.
anything that we can do to help you out, be sure to let us know. We'll be more than happy to. You know, you can share your stuff on Catfish Weekly. Any other sponsors you'd like to go over before we close out?
Yeah, we got, we pick up a new one this year, Precision Power and Precision Water and Power Sports. And they have they just don't just have boats. They've got, ATVs and Sea-Doos and whatnot out of Jefferson, Missouri. And they really good people. They approached us. Macy's Fish Signs, we talked about them. We still have monster rod holders. We've got Ann with rod socks. We've got, let me go over them all. River Rats Reel Repair, Cat River Anchors, Fat Fish Designs. That's somebody, we reached out to him, Dave Swearingen, said, hey, Tim, you got to get a hold of this guy. And he makes these custom boards, try to get one or two made for your tournament. And so we talked to him, and he said, we haven't had a whole lot, work or luck working with tournaments, selling our products. We posted a picture of some of the work they've done and talked to him, and he jumped on as a sponsor, and we posted some of those pictures, and we showed him our cutting boards and that he made for us. And thankfully it caught on, and we see them all over now. They make rod holders, cutting boards, live wells. He's going to make some other things for us. I got to get him the measurements for him. But Fat Fish Design, guys, they're out of North Carolina. Eric Simmons, great guy.
I've seen them. Yeah, awesome.
They do some great work there.
Yes, they do.
Let's see, who did I forget here? We have some local ones like Quick Guns. Quick Guns is a gun shop here. I get all my transfers done there and other things. My Cerakote's done. Park Enterprises, with the park planer boards. County Toppers. County Toppers. They do truck accessories. And why? So our sponsors we go after, or we talk to. One of the things people said when we first started, like, hey, you got to really work hard to get sponsors. So, well, if we do it right, I have a feeling sponsors will come to us. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. Well, our biggest sponsors came to us. Yeah. They like how we promote. We don't promote just at the weigh-in. We don't just mention them and thank them at the weigh-in. We promote all through in between our events. There are businesses that are open in between our events. We need to promote them accordingly. They're supporting us, and we need to support them too. And so we really push our sponsors in between our events, not just at our events. They probably get less recognition at our events because everything's going on. And they get post-event, they get a lot of recognition, and in between events, they get a lot of recognition. So then that's I think really helps them. County Toppers, I was mentioning them. They do a lot of stuff for the trucks. I bought a bunch of topper and a slide out bed and all this for my truck. And then they threw in this thing for the top of my cab, and it helps me run my events. And so we look at that too. What is the anglers going to benefit from this? We don't need to benefit from our sponsors. The anglers need to, and the sponsors need to benefit from the anglers or being promoted.
That's the right outlook.
It is.
That's the right outlook. Yeah.
And so for me, I don't need to. I prefer to buy my stuff from the sponsor, so I'm not on the hook for anything. I don't have an unbiased opinion at that point.
I feel that way.
Yeah. And so we have some great guys, and they watch out for us, and we have a good time.
Sounds like you got the anglers in mind.
Yeah, we try to.
That's the good thing.
We'd be nothing without them. Nothing without them.
Here's a fun fact for you, JR. James Webb says Tim tournaments are very family friendly, encourages families to bring kids along, great events, and he does a wonderful job. But he also added to that a little bit later down the line in chat, said it was 12 degrees that morning.
Oh my God.
Tournament.
I don't doubt it.
It's just
that's not surprising.
12. I knew it was cold, but I didn't remember it being.
But it's right for Christmas, and the guys are cabin fever's already kicked in for them. They want something that late in the year.
Oh, yeah.
They're late the night before, and I was going to put the boat in and go look around, and it was so cold the night before, right before dark, that I wouldn't unload the boat. That's the gospel. I just wouldn't do it. It's like
that's cold.
It was cold. I just wouldn't do it. And we waited and went to the tournament the next morning, unloaded blind.
A few hundred pounds of salt on the ramp. Yeah, we got the boats in though.
Ramp, yep. It was blistering cold that day. But you know what, JR? We went to the motel and everybody was standing outside having drinks and carrying on and having a good time. Isn't that right?
I'm not salting the ramp. I'm not salting the ramp. I'm sorry.
You got to.
We did a lot.
Yeah, we did a lot. Tim, thank you so much.
Right, thanks, guys. Thanks, JR. Thanks, Lyle.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, sir.
Close with
a good one.
Anything you want to close with tonight?
Oh, he took off quick.
Yeah, he did. He's gone, man.
I will close with, let's see, I got some notes written down here.
Okay.
And let's see.
Thank you, Chunky.
All righty. God made catfish, and he made Lake Wiley for them to live.
Nice.
That's what I'm going to close with.
Very nice. Fun show.
Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you next time, Lyle.
Absolutely, JR. Talk to you soon this week.